The Dallas Cowboys win a freaking wild one in those final 2 minutes. They beat the Detroit Lions 20-19 in Week 17, Saturday Night Football. Let's talk about it.
Prescott, touchdown. Throw, look at middle, sacked again by Parsons again. CD Lamb, was he down? They say no for now, and he's into the end zone.
Woo! What a freaking game, man. I'll be honest, and be sure to like and subscribe as we talk about this Cowboys and Lions game in Week 17. The Dallas Cowboys advance to 11-5 on the season, and they avoid a 3-game losing streak. They remain undefeated at home this year, and they were undefeated at home last year, so back-to-back seasons where they have been undefeated and they've won every game at home. But let me be honest, I was not jumping up and down those final 2 minutes. It was more of a I'm going to sit still and see what happens, because I was stewing. And these great things about these reactions is they're just not breakdowns. I mean, we're going to look at stats. We're going to talk about everything. But literally the game just ended 10 minutes ago. And my initial reaction was we should not be in this situation. And it falls on Dan Quinn. And it falls on Mike McCarthy. Oh my God. It should have never came down to that. Let's talk about Dan Quinn first. We'll get to Mike McCarthy first. And look, there's going to be some good in this post-game reaction video. There's going to be some bad, and there's going to be some ugly. Ugly part is the Cowboys almost gave this game away. I mean, if the Lions check in, and they tell the ref that they're an eligible receiver, I don't know what happens next. I mean, there would have been like 23 seconds left for 3 timeouts for Dakota. So, I wouldn't outrule at least kicking us into overtime or kicking a game winner. But Dan Quinn, the thing that I've noticed this, not to take away from this defense had a phenomenal game. Only allowing 20 points, or 19 points, and just really backing up after a poor showing in the final minutes against Miami on the road. But I had this issue with Dan Quinn, and I know you guys notice it, but it's this cushion. It's the cornerbacks playing 8 yards off at the snap, and every team has seen it thus far. Every opponent that we have played has seen that weakness, that glaring weakness when we play like that, and they eat it up. I mean, it's just free yards at that point. It's just up to the quarterback to make the throw and up to the wide receiver to make the catch. And that last 2 minutes was, we got bailed out. It was just poor play calling from a defensive standpoint. And my, oh my, the Cowboys got lucky. They got lucky. I'm going to say it. They got lucky because there was a moment when they caught it, you knew that they had lost that game. When they converted on the 2-point conversion, you sat there and you said, I can't believe they did that. Then, a few seconds later, they're like, hold up. He was ineligible. That feeling, I don't like that feeling. Obviously losing is a bad feeling. But I'm going to be a Debbie Downer here. There are some cause for concerns throughout this game. I'm so glad the Cowboys won, right? It would be a totally different thing. I don't want to be entirely negative. I'm just going to talk about the ugly aspects of this game first. But 2 weeks ago, in Buffalo, the Cowboys only scored 10 points. Forget that. They only scored 3 because we're not counting that garbage touchdown. And they only scored 20 points in Miami. And they only scored 20 points tonight. Defense played phenomenal to not allow more than 20 points tonight. But this offense has some question marks. They have some worries. And I guess that's where we're going to begin here with this offense after leaping off of Dan Quinn's abysmal defensive drive to end the game. This offense has no rhythm with the run. I told you guys in the pregame prediction video, and shout out to everyone who watched it, I told you don't even count on this run. Don't even say, hey, come on, let's try to get this run game going. It's non-existent. It was terrible. It reached a new negative ground tonight. It looked terrible. There was no push. There was no acceleration from Tony Pollard on that handoff. He had a couple of good hard runs, but the offensive line is not there. I mean, it's both efforts. It's Tony Pollard he's a shell of his former self, and it's this offensive line just completely scrambling at the moment, which is hard to believe because what we thought Terrence Steele was going to be, obviously giving him the contract extension this offseason, the way that he's been playing has been awful. Just awful. And that's just not in comparison to what he was. He's just truly been one of the worst parts of this offensive line. And he gave up a pivotal sack to Aiden Hutchinson that knocked us out of field goal range that could have made this game 20-13. Well, it did, but, it forced our hand there. And just, an offensive line that includes Zach Martin, Tyron Smith was beat on a play or two tonight. Tyler Smith, hopefully he's good from that injury, and thankfully it's the end of the year, so we only have one more week left. And then Tyler Biadasz is struggling. This offensive line is just not really at a good place at the moment, and Dak Prescott has played phenomenally. I mean, Dak Prescott is saving a lot of jobs for this offseason. I'll just say it. But what happens when he's not playing this well? What happens when he's not out of his mind right now and playing at the high level that he is? That's the thing that worries me. We're one-dimensional. And if you don't believe me, this whole offense is based on the fact if CeeDee Lamb can get going or not, or if we can get the ball going to him. I'm going to pause right here because I feel like I'm coming off too negative about this video so far because, like I said, there's good, there's the bad, there's the ugly. But let's talk about this defense. I thought this defense played phenomenally. What a way to come out and just be so aggressive and make the plays when it mattered. When we look at this stat sheet, I mean, rushing yards, they had 125-60, and they had some big runs against us. But I think when it mattered the most, they made plays. And one person I want to talk about that is never talked about enough, and it blows my mind every single time. And if you guys have been watching me for the longest time, I'm always vouching for this man, saying, like, this man is our defense. And it's number 90, DeMarcus Lawrence, the tank. He had an outstanding game tonight. Oh, my gosh. He is just a fantastic football player, a force to be reckoned with, a run stopper. He was in there with pressure. No sacks tonight, but just pressure on Jared Goff. Excuse me. And DeMarcus Lawrence is ridiculously valuable to this defense. I don't know where we would be without DeMarcus Lawrence, but man, oh man, he had an incredible game tonight, and the Cowboys were successful because of him. Another game ball you got to give out to is Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis, man, when he is on his game, he is on his game. And I know he didn't play last year due to the injury. He was out for the season, and a lot of people questioned, hey, maybe we should let go Jordan Lewis for cap reasons, The Cowboys kept this man for a particular purpose, for a specific purpose, and he showed it out tonight. Just an incredible game, physical, but obviously having the interception, reading that really well on the screen. Just a really fantastic night for Jordan Lewis, and then the other interception was Donovan Wilson towards the end of the game, which should have sealed the game. And now let's talk about it. Should have sealed the game because then the Cowboys get the ball. They drive down the field. They get the field goal, obviously. But Mike McCarthy, look, we're on the verge of going 3 seasons in a row with 12-plus wins, which is an amazing accomplishment. And tonight was a night of recognizing coaches. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson back in the Ring of Honor. We will talk about that a little bit more into detail. And the coaching is a huge aspect of it. Coaching sets the tone. Coaching, there's an attention to detail. Coaching, you're making pivotal calls at pivotal moments. And why in the world? I think he's lost. I really think he's lost. He's out of his element. There is something not gelling well with his decision process right now because it makes no sense at that point of the game, 1 minute 40 seconds left, second down, to throw into the end zone to Brandon Cooks and not run the ball and not force the Lions to use all their timeouts when you're already in field goal range and you have Mr. Perfect Brandon Butter Aubrey. I get it maybe if you don't have a kicker, and we've seen wild situations like that in the NFL, but you got someone who's been perfect so that you know you're going to run it, you're going to bleed 40 seconds left, and you're going to give it to the best kicker in the NFL. And Aubrey remains perfect at the end of the night. There wasn't like one missed kick that he had later in the game. Just inexcusable how he got in the way of his team and almost costed them a game. The frustration in that is obviously tonight, seeing that decision play out, but also, if you guys remember against the Seahawks, there was a similar play call where he decided to throw it instead of running it, and that game came down to the wire again. Defense made a play like the defense did tonight. Point is, don't make it harder than it should be. If you have the opportunity to close out a game like that, just close out the game. Don't overthink it. Don't oversimplify it. It's simple. Run the ball. And I think it's so funny how all offseason he told us, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball because Kellen Moore was taking out his OC, and now he's going to be the offensive play caller. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. But in the most significant moments so far, we've seen him not be able to do that. Dak Prescott is carrying this team, and he is making Mike McCarthy look better than he really is. And Mike McCarthy almost costed his team another win tonight. Look, it's not week 5 anymore. It's not week 3. It's not week 9. It's week 17. We got one more game, 2 more weeks until the playoffs. One more game left in the regular season and the 2 games, 2 weeks until the playoffs. We need to be detail-oriented like this as fans, as analysis. We need to look into these things because this is the kind of stuff that can cost you a game. What if that was a playoff game? I'm glad we get the win and we advance and we move on, right? But inexcusable how both these coaches, Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy, did not ultimately do their best at setting this team up for success when they could have won it earlier in the game. Again, this team showed up in the moments, right? The defense made a stop at that 2-point conversion. But man, oh man, why are we making it more stressful than it should be? just absolutely ridiculous. And for me, that's a cause for concern. And for some reason, in the middle of this game, there was no involvement from Cooks or Ferguson or Michael Gallup. I don't even think he had a catch tonight, to be honest. No, Michael Gallup did not have a catch tonight. And just Mike McCarthy is just out of his element. And I don't necessarily believe, I'll look at the All-22, but I don't necessarily believe it was anything that the Detroit Lions were doing wildly successfully. Like, they played a tough game. This defense, you got to tip your hat to them. The Lions played us really well at some points. But to contribute all of that to the Lions defense, I can't do that because Mike McCarthy needs to be held in question. Why are we not getting these other players involved when he is continuously and consistently did that during our winning streak? And then when we finally got in the end zone with that catch to Brandon Cooks, we got everyone involved again. Just do that through the rest of the game, and I don't understand why we're getting out of rhythm, out of pace to establish the run when it's no longer our strong suit. I love running the football. I'm a run-first kind of guy, but our team is not a run-first kind of team. This far in the season, forget it. It's not going to happen. We're all in on Dak right now. We're not going to win a game by running the football. Dak's going to have a game like he did tonight and like he has the past couple of weeks to get us to where we need to go. That's the identity of this football team right now. You got to live with it. You got to accept it. And that's hard for me to swallow because I would love for this team to have more linebackers to stop the run. I would love for them to run the football better, but it's just not who they are right now. And I would hold back on saying that if it was week 10 or week 8 or week 5, but it's week 17, and we just saw tonight Dak Prescott 26 of 38, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is Dak's team. This is Dak's offense. We go as far as this man carries us, and thankfully he's playing incredibly. and made a really strong case again for MVP tonight, but I feel like Lamar Jackson's probably in the front running for that after his game against San Francisco. But Tony Pollard, 16 carries for 49 yards. Like I said, struggled a lot of the time, but had a couple of good runs right there. But, of course, we got to talk about number 88. Frickin' CeeDee Lamb. A wild night for CeeDee Lamb. 13 catches, 227 yards. Just think about that for a moment. And just 200-plus yards for CeeDee Lamb. 13 catches. That's wild. And he could have had 2 touchdowns, but, kids, 2 hands on the football. 2 hands on the football. Obviously, that bounced back. And if you want to complain about the touchback rule, you're just saying that because your team was on the wrong end of it. I don't think it's a dumb rule. I mean, there has to be a consequence for the ball rolling out into the end zone. Or better yet, 2 hands, kids. 2 hands. Keep it on the football so you don't fumble, you don't put your team in a position like that. But other than that, CeeDee Lamb had an incredible night. And I feel like incredible is an understatement when talking about CeeDee Lamb. Now the most yards in Cowboys franchise history in a single season, most receptions in a single season in Cowboys history, stepping over Michael Irvin to get there. And just an incredible night outside of the football game. Of course, I'm really glad that we won. I had predicted that we weren't. Yes, I will eat crow. I thought the Cowboys weren't going to be able to get this win. And at moments, I was a little bit concerned. And I was just kind of sitting back just thinking like, yep, they would do that. Like that would be what the Cowboys would do in a situation like that. But hats off to them. They did win by 1 point tonight, and they made a crucial stop. They came really close. In those final 2 minutes, the Cowboys did a lot to lose this game. But Dan Campbell, man, rolling the dice. Detroit Lions fans, if y'all are in the chat, let me know how you feel about that. I get it, though. Looking back, they already got the division, right? So it's just, be aggressive, and so I understood the call of going for it. Maybe after like the second time, I would probably like kick the field goal and just send it to overtime. But I understand the aggressiveness from Dan Campbell, and you're already in the playoffs, you already clinched your division. But this was a crucial game to play a competitor, and the Detroit Lions are a tough team, man. Like, they are a tough team. They showed it tonight. Their running game is out of this world. Like, they can win a lot of games that way. Jared Goff can throw that football so far. I mean, they had that big throw to Jamison Williams early on in the game. This is a tough team. And so for the Cowboys to find a way to win, and that's what I initially wanted when I talked about it in my pregame prediction video. I talked about this team, if they're going to win this game, they got to just find a way to win. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. But you got to find something. You got to find a win in the season that you can hang your hat on and be like, that was a tough team. That was a really good team, but we found a way to win. And the gauntlet is over. So take a deep breath, everyone. It's over. From the Eagles to the Lions, we played the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Lions. Overall, we went 2-2. How do you feel? 2-2. Should have been 3-1 if you ask me. And I think all those teams would have been beatable, but obviously the Cowboys on the road is always a dice roll. But that's all I got to say, guys. I'm so glad we won the game tonight, obviously, to go 11-5. This is truly a talented team, but there's still a lack of details, in my opinion, when it comes to this team. And that's, if we're talking about Jimmy Johnson, going back to him and his Ring of Honor, Jimmy Johnson was a man of details, and he was a coach of details. And you could still tell, like, even the way he was speaking at halftime, you could just tell the respect he got from his players. And I say that not just because it's about Jimmy Johnson, but the teams that won something back in the 90s, every detail mattered. Nothing was overseen. It wasn't just pure talent. There was strategy. There was intention. This team is talented. The Dallas Cowboys now are very talented. We've known that for years. But to get over the hump, there needs to be an emphasis on details. And I feel like the Cowboys lacked in a lot of ways. And one of those details almost costed them the game. Just let that sit for a moment. We ended up winning the game. Yes. But we're this far in the season where we need to analyze little decisions like that. And not be happy with it and want something better, and that's okay, especially in this trilogy that we feel like we're in with the third straight season that the Cowboys go into the playoffs. We need to go into this postseason finishing the things that we started, and that starts with details. The fumble. You got to have two hands on it, CD, going into the end zone. The penalties, false starts, the holding, the play calling, running the ball when you're supposed to, bleeding the clock out when you're supposed to. These things matter. Again, I'm glad the Cowboys won. It's a big win. It's a must win, like I said. So to be on this end and have the win and be 11-5, it's a huge thing. And to still have that NFC East potentially in play, that's a big thing. But there are a few things that the Cowboys can clean up on to help them get to that next level, to hopefully help them win more than one playoff game this year. But other than that, be sure to comment down below your highlights of the game, what you thought about everything I said, what the good, the bad, and the ugly of this game was. I mean, it was a wild one. It was a wild one. But I will see you guys later this week as we move on to the last game of the season against the Washington Commanders, and we will be watching the Eagles tomorrow, wondering if the Cardinals can upset them. That would be crazy if it could happen, but we'll wait and see. I will see you guys later this week. Be sure to like and subscribe. Go Cowboys!
Prescott, touchdown.